The notion you can control how you're perceived is a perception. Think about it. Well, except on camera. On camera, everyone's a little bit phony and you can control it. But let's talk about the business of news. So if you're a journalist and the company you work for goes out of business, you'll understand a little bit more about why they went out of business. The topic comes to mind because I was watching a video by that YouTube channel called 1790L, which is kind of a conservative YouTube channel. Try to watch a wide range of YouTube channels from Vox to 1790L. Anyway, they were talking about the recent layoffs in media and how they didn't appeal to a broad enough audience, and because of that, their politics got in the way, and because of that, these companies are going out of business. Well, not all news organizations' goal is to go after the broadest audience possible. In fact, that's not the only way to be a profitable news company. There are kind of three ways. There is the standard way that most people think of, like the New York Times way, which is to try to be a news of record and appeal to the broadest audience possible. Same with like the Washington Post, regardless of if you think they're liberal or not. They try to appeal to the widest audience possible, and by doing so, they get the most subscriptions, or just by pure audience numbers, they're able to get advertisers. The other two ways are either leaning heavily into a demographic, let's say like the National Review or the Spectre, or some of the publications that Christopher Hitchens wrote for early on, some of the socialist publications. And those kind of, news companies specifically lean in to a demographic, knowing that if they appeal to that niche demographic enough, they'll get subscriptions or get, ads that want to target that particular demographic. And that's a pretty common way. And that doesn't necessarily have to be conservative or a liberal demographic. Politico, for instance, leans into like people that are really obsessed with politics, and certain advertisers want to advertise to people that are really into politics, whether that be lobbyists in DC or tech firms in California. So like the Politicos, the National Reviews, they're really leaning into a very specific sort of audience. They're not necessarily trying to capture the broadest audience possible to make a monetizable, profit-driven news organization. The third way is the kind of Forbes, Fortune, Bloomberg model, which is to once again appeal to a demographic, but appeal to even a smaller demographic that's not particularly ideologically, politically driven or interested in politics, but is simply an audience that has a lot of money. And if you have an audience that just has a higher average income than a different audience, you're able to get selective ads. So for instance, like Bloomberg or Fortune, Rolex might be more willing to spend money to put ads on Fortune magazine or Forbes magazine or Bloomberg over the New York Times, even though the New York Times has a bigger audience, but specifically because Bloomberg and Fortune magazine, for instance, have an audience that has a six-figure income on average, versus the average New York Times audience may only have a $50,000 a year income. Now, I'm making these numbers off the top of my head, but they serve as an example of what I'm trying to talk about, which is all about like demographic targeting, and that just reaching the broadest audience possible isn't always the end goal of news companies in order to reach profitability. And if you're a journalist, it's worthwhile thinking about the kind of media company you work for and what is their target demographic. Are they targeting a demographic that has a higher than average income? Are they targeting a demographic that's politically, ideologically driven? Or are you working for a media company that's trying to get the most amount of views or concurrent traffic possible? And once you understand that, that'll help you quite a bit in delivering what your boss wants and what the company is employing you to do. Anyway, this is just kind of a quick video, I think, adding more nuance to this 1790L video about how, if a media company can't reach a broad enough audience, it goes out of business. That's not necessarily true, and in fact, that's not the goal of quite a few press and media organizations. There's more nuance and targeted demographics about it, specifically because often advertisers aren't exactly interested in reaching just the broadest audience possible. They're interested in more and more reaching an engaged audience, and how you define that engaged audience becomes an even more complex and complicated topic that we can talk about in a different video. But anyway, just some thoughts, a little bit of response to that 1790L video about the layoffs. If you want to watch another video, click around. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.